I'm Curtis.
And I'm Randal, and we're from Agriteer. Today we planned this was super dry.
Really dry.
We had the closing system, I think, set to max as well.
Yeah.
And with the rain we got last week,
it's going to be fun.
Turned out awesome.
It's really going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time.
Should be a show. Okay, so Randall and I are up here in this Harvest International plot. So this particular planter is 30-foot, 30-inch planter, so 12-row 30-inch planter. Set up with Precision Planning's V-Drive Delta Force, Fur Force, which is a closing system, and Reveal, frame-mounted road cleaner. And around here doing some post-planting scouting. So,
Curtis, a few more specs. Do you remember what Delta Force was set at?
Yeah, so again, this field was very dry and hard the day we planted it.
Extremely hard.
And we actually went into Delta Force. Of course, it's an active downforce management, but we can adjust the maximum applied downforce. And this we did have set at 500 pounds as our maximum downforce, just because we were running out of frame weight. Just didn't have enough frame weight to go to the max of 650.
So Harvest has a flex frame. But we don't
frame.
have active weight transfer.
We do not have active weight management. So whatever weight was on the frame is whatever weight was there. It was working off the frame that was there.
So the wings are obviously going to be our biggest challenge.
Exactly.
They were going to get light on us first.
Especially at the flex point, where
Right.
it didn't have the weight out. At the end of the wing, we had the weight of the markers, so it helped to penetrate.
So that's just some of the things that's going on here.
Some of the things to notice, if we're comparing row 3 to row 4, that'd be a little bit of variation there. Not a whole lot.
So row 3 is where the flex point is on the wing.
Between row 3 and row 4, right where I'm at is where the flex point is at on this planter. So if we walk from one end to the other, we might see some variation there.
So just some things to consider.
Exactly.
And Fur Force we had set on automatic.
Fur Force we had set on automatic. We set the V drive to 32,000. That was our target planting population on all these planters.
What was our target planting depth? I know it was hard to get there because it's so.
We were targeting 2 inches, just like all the other planters. That tends to be a very kind of a consistent, good target to start from.
2 inches.
Really what we're looking for the day of planting is uniform moisture. And that's why we always say 2 inches is a depth to go for. That's where we normally have the most consistent moisture. Now, let's say you're running Precision Planting Smart Farmer that can monitor soil moisture, and you could see you had uniform moisture at 1.5 inches, let's say, which we obviously did in the day of planting this. But let's say you did. Having uniform moisture is really going to be what gives you an uniform emergence then, because consistent moisture helps with consistent emergence.
Because we need moisture, we need oxygen, and we need what's the temperature?
We want to be at least above 60 degrees, I would say. Some seeds do better in that cold germination. There's actually cold germination tests you can do on your seed. And kind of get where that is. And so if you're out planting early in the spring and you know that this particular variety has a poor cold germination, you could just choose to wait to start planting that variety. Being that we planted this field in July, it was warm, it was hot. So that was not a situation. One thing I will note, so we planted this, it was dry and hard, but we did have a rain 24 to 36 hours after we planted it. And so I believe that was a big factor into helping our emergence here. But let's just take a look here and see. We keep talking about emergence. Just dig up a plant here. So let me take a look. This plant we're at looks like V4. This one we're going to say is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have a V4 and a V5 plant here. So one leaf collar behind.
We're just digging up, looking at planter depth. And
dig it up here, and we're going to see what we can learn.
And we're looking at that row. We can see we have very consistent spacing. So we should not really have an issue with that anywhere on this row. Should not be a factor.
Let's see if I have a seed here that I can look at. Yeah, that's going to be a little difficult to tell that. Let's dig up this.
It's amazing how quickly they put out those roots and get a good foundation going on. But since the day we planted, I think we have over 4 inches of rain on this crop now, right? In the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks. That's what I saw.
Okay. So really, this seed is not. I mean, I would say it might be 1.25 inches. If this one was an inch, about a 1/4 inch planting depth difference. You can definitely tell the stalk diameter difference. This plant would, if we were to follow it through to yield, put on roughly half the size ear of this one, just because it's so far behind in the competition with a stronger performing plant. So we talk about emergence, and a lot of emergence comes down to uniform depth, and then talk about closing consistent moisture. This planter was equipped with Ferroforce, which does a really good job of breaking down the sidewall of the opening disc. So any compaction layers, it pretty much eliminates.
Destroying all those.
And then it helps to close that seed trench from the bottom up with the shape of the closing disc, that first stage wheel, and takes out all the air gaps, lets it loose and mellow. And then we come along behind the first stage wheel with the second stage wheel to kind of firm that soil back down so we don't lose any moisture that we might have left. So that closing system is proven, for us here in our area, is proven to be a really good closing system to kind of maximize the uniform emergence.
And earlier we were talking about, Delta Force, our active down pressure system on the row. Like we can adjust that on the fly. So like that closing system, if I'm in soft, wet ground, obviously it's not going to take near the pressure it would in this, like a situation like this. Right?
Exactly.
Is that an active system, Curtis?
Yeah, so Ferroforce on this planter, it can be an active. So we can run it as a manual. If you don't have the technology on the planter to run it, you can manually control the air pressure. But this particular planter was set up with the automatic. So we're measuring the weight on that second stage wheel, and then that's acting as a gauge wheel for the first stage wheel. So we don't want that first stage wheel to go too deep.
Right.
So we're kind of using that to adjust the air pressure. Talking about Delta Force as an active downforce system. So what we're doing is we're measuring weight on the gauge wheel. So let's say we were targeting a 2-inch planting depth. We have a load sensor on that row that measures the weight on that gauge wheel. If it's not carrying weight, it's going to apply more down pressure. Once it hits our target, and I think our target was set at about 110 pounds of weight on the gauge wheel, then that's where it stops. And so that load sensor takes 200 readings a second, and then the Delta Force makes adjustments 5 times a second. So it's a very reactive system, very responsive to changing ground conditions.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, Kurt, it's pretty much every seed should be planted into a situation that's, we're not having extra sidewall contact, extra sidewall pressure, but we're getting right down there to depth.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what we're targeting is uniform depth with Delta Force. Uniform depth and not creating a compaction. Like we can put all kinds of down pressure into that mellow soil and we get the depth, but then we create a compaction area around that seed. That could be taken out with Ferroforce, something like Ferroforce, but it's going to be much more challenging, and you have a risk of causing restricted root growth.
Catching roots, plants struggling to get up and out.
All right, so I think it pretty much covers emergence. Let's discuss another thing that can affect yield, and that is singulation. So our skips and our doubles. Looking across this stand, I'm struggling to find a good scenario for a skip. Yeah, right here. Here's a great example. So you see here, looks like I was missing a plant that was right here. However, I have 2 plants growing side by side here. So let's dig this up. we're going to see if we have a multiple or what we got going on here. So yeah, there's two seeds in here. Here's a seed and here's a seed. So I don't know for a fact if this is what happened, but I do know for a fact that we were planting this direction. So this is kind of a story of singulation and spacing both.
Exactly.
So I think what happened here is
because our population map would still show 32,000 here.
Oh yeah, we had a skip and then we had a double, so it's essentially a good population.
We planted the right amount of seeds for the field, but not at the right spot.
So a skip, there's no plant there, there's no ear. Obviously, we can't put an ear where there's not a plant. So that's lost yield. And then a multiple, you put two plants side by side, they're going to compete for moisture, nutrients, and all the above. And so the combined yield of these two plants is actually going to be less than its neighboring plant. So that's a cost of singulation, so skips and doubles. But this was more likely a spacing issue. So we were planting this direction. Some reason, this row unit, this seed decided to make a bounce in the field. I'm not seeing any stones or anything like that might have caused that, but for some reason, that seed contacted the seed tube, more than likely, and it slowed down that seed dropping to the ground, and so that created that skip. Since that seed slowed down, landed right next to the next seed. It had good spacing, good spacing.
It was dropped
in the right place.
Yep.
And so that created our skip double effect. So we had 100% singulation
on the meter.
But we actually had a spacing error that created a singulation error. Now we also want to look at uniform spacing. So here's an example maybe of spacing. So this plant is definitely closer together than what this plant is. So likely there was a little bit of delay in this seed coming down. Spacing isn't really going to affect yield until we get about 4 inches away. So what do I got here? So we're right at 4 inches, maybe just a little bit more than that. So there's probably going to be very little yield hit with that. But once we get within 4 inches of a neighboring plant, we do start to see yield.
So taking those nutrients and those.
Yeah, they start competing. So that 4 inches is usually the target number there for a spacing error.
So Curtis, I'm just thinking about this whole thing, going back to this one where we had the double, skip and the double, and then those seeds there. So on the day of planting, this was extremely hard ground. So we were maxing out our delta force. We couldn't get any more pressure. We had everything we got, and we still were not always reaching depth or just so. Sometimes we actually come up a little shallow. So I'm thinking through this. If we have a rock and we're already maxed out, we hit that rock, it's going to cause
a vibration in the row unit.
So when I'm going to the field and planting in the spring, these are just things I need to keep in mind. The conditions are getting hard. Some of these variables that I'm able to control better in a prime planting situation, I'm going to start losing some of that control.
And this planter was set up with V-set meters in the V-drive, which is an electric drive, very smooth meter control. If we were in a planter that's a ground drive with chains or whatever, anything in that drivetrain can cause chatter to that meter and cause spacing issues. So, paying attention, having good maintenance on your planter before you go to the field makes a huge difference in actual planter performance.
Keeps that running smooth.
Yep. The chains, sprockets, bearings, all those things that could cause chatter. That's one of the advantages with electric drive is to eliminate all that. Brings in swath control, so you have the ability to shut rows on and off as you're coming into headlands, and then population control. You just set right in to monitor the population we want, and it's a target. So then you can do prescriptions. If you want to do variable rate, change on the fly. V drive. Yes, I'm Curtis Martin. I work at our Waynesboro location for Agriteer.
Yeah, and I'm Randal Wenger. I work at the Leola store, and we're just out here in the field.
So we're evaluating a stand of planter passes that we made was at
July
about
16th.
a month ago.
Yep.
And so we want to demonstrate maybe how some different planter setups can affect planter stands, and we're actually going to have live planting demos.
That's going to be really cool.
So the beauty is we've had all kinds of moisture in the last week, and so planting conditions should be really good to get out and we'll analyze stands live.
So some consistent moisture, some good temperature.
Right. That's right.
We can control the rest. So.
Yep.
Well, Curtis, I believe that wraps it up.
Mm-hmm.
We got through and looked at all these stands, and so we've had a great time putting these plots in. We had some rain since then, and yeah, we'd love to tell you the story of what happened here with this planting plot. Right. I'm Randal Wenger.
So I'm Curtis Martin. Thanks for going through this plot with me, Randal. It's been lots of fun. Just analyzing the stand here. Really a lot of story to be told here with this stand, and yeah, it's always exciting. Every planter pass creates a story, and we want to share that story with you guys. So